of metals, especially for cobalt, as it has been used for a lot of stuff like laptop and phones. I'm just currently doing my PhD, and I'm hoping to finish maybe this year if God help me. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, I'm Niragire Henriette. I'm from Rwanda. I got my scholarship with the OWSD in 2013. By then, I started applying for admission. I struggled to get admission. I get it in 2012, but during 1 year, the whole 2012, I couldn't get admission from anyone. Every time I wrote to a supervisor, they reply, we apologize, we can't take you. And I always apply in South Africa. Actually, with the OWSD, you can apply in South Africa, China, Malaysia, and some other countries. But I was interested in South Africa because it's close to Rwanda. Maybe I can take time to come home. Then, unfortunately, I took 1 year without any reply from supervisors. Then I had an idea. I went to website to actually look for Rwandese who has got the same offer. Then I saw Agnes, my friend. She was there. Then I didn't know her before. Then I looked for her contact. I contacted her. I say, how did you manage to get supervisor? Then actually, she has got supervisor from CRED. So that's along a chain. So then we got into contact. So she introduced me to Prof. Maza. He was his supervisor. But I got struggled with that professor. Because when I got in South Africa, he wanted me to be in physics because all his students was enrolled in physics. So I say, I am chemist. I did environmental chemistry. I can't do this. And he was like, no, but there is no problem. You can just do chemistry research, but in physics. I say, how can I do this? We were sort of fighting. But the idea here, you have to know what you want. Otherwise, anyone can take you wherever he wants, if I can say it. Then we did kind of fighting, but not really fighting. I say, Prof, really, I'm doing nothing here. I spent 8 months doing nothing, not registered. I was like, I'm going back home. I think I'm losing time here. So it doesn't make sense to spend the whole 8 months doing nothing. Then he started introducing me to some supervisors in chemistry. And then I told him, I have to be with my supervisors. I can't be here and having a supervisor in Johannesburg. Then I told him I have to move from Cape Town to Johannesburg. Then he was like, oh, if you want, you can go. I packed my stuff. I went to Johannesburg. I was based in UNISA, University of South Africa, with a professor in chemistry. That's when I started working. Knowing that I've spent 1 year doing nothing, I was working day and night in the lab. I managed to accomplish my master's in 1 year, writing up and doing stuff. And then after 1 year, I had to come home because I submitted my thesis. Then I came home. But it took time because I was not there. Communication when you are not at that place, it took really time. Unfortunately, when I came here, the visa issue came. But it doesn't nothing to do with that because I have submitted. But I couldn't go there actually to push, to get feedback and the stuff. I have to wait. I actually make sure that I communicate through emails, sometimes with my colleague. Can you please go to see Prof, tell her that I need this and this. And fortunately, I graduated in March, actually 1 week ago, but I couldn't go there. I couldn't attend, but I got my degree, and I'm looking forward to do my PhD. Yeah, thank you very much.
My life before knowing OWSD, yes, I had the interest in science since I was at high school. But having that interest in physics, I was also in love with my husband. Yes, after finishing my high school, me and my husband, we took a decision of getting married, but my family was not happy because they thought that I'm going to stop my education. But my husband fought a lot to make sure that I will continue my education and reach as far as possible. Because of that, he took the decision to stop getting kids. But due to the pressure of my mother and my mother-in-law, yeah, we decided to have our first kid in 2006. And at that time, I went to start my university when my firstborn had only 1 week. It was in the second year when I got my second kids. And then my husband decided to stop his education and support me to raise my kids while I'm studying. It was in 2010 when I got my master's degree. After getting my master's degree, I went back to the village and started working like a teacher. Yes, it was in 2013 when I got the chance to get a scholarship from OWSD, and my husband didn't hesitate to allow me to leave my family and go in South Africa. Reaching there in South Africa, due to the support of OWSD, I managed to attend in different workshops and international conferences. This is the first one. Here I was in Morocco attending this African laser conference in 2015. Yes, here it was also another workshop that I have attended at University of Stellenbosch. Even here I gave a talk telling them about my journey while I'm doing my study. Yes, this is also another meeting. This conference is very, very special because when you go there, they cannot allow you to go there second time. It is life, it is only once in life. Except if you become a wife of Nobel laureate or you win a Nobel laureate. Yeah. Yes. Reaching there in Lindau, it was in Germany. We got a good time there. Here is another interesting conference. It was at Pretoria. And I remember this conference very well because it was the beginning of the idea of Rwandan National Chapter. And during this event, Rwandan has won a first abstract during the conference. There it was Harriet who was our presenter. Yes, it is not only attending conferences, I also got my master's degree in 2015. I also developed my career as a researcher. There are also other more outcomes like getting the opportunity to be supported by OWSD. Helped me to discover hidden potential in me. I also managed to publish and increase my visibility internationally. If you go on Google and put my name, you can see more about me. Thank you very much for OWSD.
Marie Chantal Cyurinyana from Rwanda. Actually, I am a physicist. My journey of loving science starts at early age because of my father. He was a mathematician. So he was the one who inspired me to do science. I did physics, biology, chemistry in secondary school. Then I got a chance to do my undergraduate at KIE, former College of Education, where I was doing physics, chemistry, and education. After that, I was in the class we were about only 4 ladies and others were boys. If I remember, we were 30, so only 4 girls were in that class. So I was the first in the class. I can't lie. I think sometimes if I go to Kia, sometimes I see my because I used to do some resume. So people used to read my resume instead of looking on the note that the lecturer gave us. So I tried hard to get where I am now. So later on, I went to teach in the secondary school after my graduation, and I got an opportunity to go at AIMS. So I was selected among the talented young Africans to do physics or mathematics. So I attended AIMS. After AIMS, AIMS also offered opportunity to pursue your study because they was offering only the postgraduate at that time. Now they can offer masters. So I was supported by AIMS to do my master's at University of Johannesburg. So I graduated in 2011. I came back. I was so lucky to come back in Rwanda because when I was coming, there were a lot of offers in physics. Because I remember my friend came 2010, he couldn't find a job. But when I came, I was already wanted. So I couldn't know where to choose. So I went first to Kavumu College of Education for a few months, and then I moved to here, College of Science and Technology. So I'm an assistant lecturer at College of Science and Technology in the Physics Department. And I taught there for 2 years. Then I applied for OWSD. When I applied, I got the opportunity to go further my studies. So as I did my master's in South Africa, so it was easy to get connection. So when I asked for admission at University of Johannesburg, I got an admission and then I applied. It was straightforward. So I didn't get any problem for getting admission or anything. Now I almost done 9% of my PhD. I was supposed to submit this, but I told my supervisor, let me go first to Rwanda because there is an important event that I can't miss. So I will come back and then finish. I will submit. I promise you I will submit by the end of April. So I already defended my thesis. It was really okay. I didn't get a lot of comment, so I have to do some correction and then submit. So that's how I get here.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Benis Bankole. I'm from Benin, but I'm studying in South Africa. I'm at University of KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg. How I found myself here. At the beginning, I was working at Africa Rice Center as a technician, but I always want to do science. I got there because I wanted to work and pay my school fees. So I started working after my biological diploma. And after 1 year, I was able to save money because after I got my matric, my daddy unfortunately died. So it was hard to get further. So I got my first job. I thought to myself, I will work for 1 year and save money and pay my school fees because I don't want my mom to continue paying my fees. And I work, I save money. I could not keep working and study, so I choose to go for night courses. So during the day, I work. On night, I go for master's courses. So it took me, instead of having 2 years for master's, because in Benin it's 2 years, it took me 3 years to complete my master's, and I was still working. But where I was working, there were so many opportunities to do PhD, but they were not giving me the opportunities. I looked so much, many years, to do my PhD. I was in charge of the lab of breeding, where I got students, I trained them, but there were no opportunities for me because the boss I have really doesn't want to give me opportunities. So one day in my room, the idea of what I am doing now for my PhD just come. I write the project on my room, and I took the project to him the following day, and I told him, that is a project I got. Since there is a project, but you keep saying that I could not fit in, can the department support me? And on my own, I can go to university, pay my fees because I'm getting my salary, but I need research support, and I need the institute to support me so that I can go and keep getting my job because I need that money as well. But he never said no, he never said yes as well. So I said, okay, I will definitely do this PhD because those who have the PhD around, I see how much they get advantage, how much they were being paid so well, and I was the one doing the job. So I said, okay, I will look for opportunities and do that PhD. And I registered myself in one scientific forum where I saw many scientists who comment, they put topic, they comment. And I noticed one of the guys from South Africa always put a nice comment. So I decided to Google about him. So I Googled, I see that he's exactly the guy I'm looking for. I will take the chance to send him an email. So I write the email on the night. The following day, I just see that the guy replied to me because on my email, I put my CV, and I told him that I just want someone to supervise me. I want to do my PhD. So he replied to me. He said, I really like your CV, but I want to know if you have already an idea about what you want to do. So I said, I actually have a project, and I'm looking for someone to found that project and to supervise me. So he said, okay, I have research found for you, but I don't have money for your stay in South Africa and anything. If you can look for money to stay in South Africa, you are welcome anytime. I went again back to the HR of the institute I was working. So I said, okay, I have that opportunities. Can you guys just allow me to go for maybe sandwich, like half time, and keep my job so I can take that money to survive in South Africa? I would not need any other support. But it was also difficult. They don't want to give me that opportunity. So I start looking, Googling, till one day I found OWSD, and I forward the email to my current supervisor. Can I apply? He said, just go ahead. And I applied, and I got the scholarship. It was like 1 week before the deadline, and I got the scholarship. And since there, it's really amazing journey with OWSD. I went all over. I won't tell you where, but I went to many conferences, and currently I submit my PhD last week before I come here. So I published with someone 2 papers already, and they start proposing me postdocs, so I'm waiting to be graduate or taking my diploma and see what will come out after that. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yesterday I got an opportunity to be here again, so I don't have slides, but I've decided to put my story down because I have so much to say, so it's better for me to read. My name is Zipporah Wanjiku Mudhui from Kenya. In order to maximize my 5 minutes, I decided to pen down my story so as to capture many of the intriguing parts. Born to an average family with educated parents, one would have expected that I would be geared towards my academics and maximize my potential. However, This was sadly not the case, and up to the time I completed my undergraduate studies, I did not quite maximize my potential. It was, however, not lost on me how much my mother valued education and academic excellence, and she would often speak very well of her colleague who pursued her PhD in agricultural research. Little did I know that my subconscious was getting motivated. The social surroundings seemed to have a great impact on me that did not communicate to me that I needed my education for my own well-being and the family I would later raise. For some strange reason, I understood that it would be someone else's responsibility to take care of me, maybe a husband, if out of my parents' house. Indeed, I did get married and was blessed with 2 wonderful sons, now 22 and 16 years old. In the course of that, my eyes had begun to open, and I began to realize that society expected much more from me. I was a high school teacher, and I definitely had a passion for teaching. But my pay was too little to contribute meaningfully to the family budget. I was fortunate to work under a boss who was nurturing, and I was highly motivated in the course of my duties. I would often lecture my students on how seriously they needed to work without distractions. They would excel and join prestigious courses such as medicine and engineering. Then it began to dawn on me that I'd never quite applied myself fully in my studies, and that all the studies tips I used to share with my students were theoretical in as far as I was concerned. My own students turned out to be my motivators to pursue higher studies. But I now was a grown-up woman who was going to finance my studies. I had a job, and I still needed it. How was I going to balance everything? I prayed to God to help me. Fortunately, at that time, the interest charged on bank loans was greatly reduced in our country, and I could apply for a loan. I did, and was also fortunate enough to be granted a study leave by my employer. I had an opportunity to fully apply myself in academics now. This I did with great determination and effort. And just to mention that my mother was deeply pleased. And at this point I mentioned that I actually became the first female master's in physics at that university, Egerton University. And after that, several have come. So at least I made history even with my not applying myself. So after I completed my master's degree, I had a great desire to pursue my PhD degree. The same challenges were there as before during my master's, but with a bigger one of what research problem to solve. Ordinarily, I would observe PhD students taking over 10 years to complete their studies, and they looked very frustrated. I certainly did not wish to proceed that way. I prayed again to God to help me. Then I received the call for the career development workshop for women in physics at ICTP Trieste. I applied, and to my delight, I was invited for a fully paid for trip. That was a miracle. This became the turnaround point in my career. There, I met my PhD guide, Professor Ati Kashyap of the Indian Institute of Technology, Mandi, who told me that she could solve the issue of research problem for me, and to her that didn't look like a big issue. And I also, through Dr. Tonya Blower's presentation, I got to hear about OWSD for the very first time. It sounded too good to be true, exactly what I needed. When the time came, I applied, and the second miracle happened. My application was successful. This was in 2014, and I was to go for my first visit in 2015. So I went to India, and by the grace of God, I was able, by sheer hard work, to get some good results, and published in Elsevier Journal, American Institute of Physics journals, IEEE, and within those 2 years, I was able to publish my 4 publications. So I really thank God for OWSD. They took one who was not quite the best. I was like a bent reed, and they did not break it. They took a flickering lamp, and they did not put it off. They made it shine brighter. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bernadette from Senegal, and I got the OWSD fellowship in 2014. So I had a funny time with this scholarship, and the most great thing was traveling all around the world and accumulating my miles. So that was the funny part. So after graduating from OWSD Senegal, where I met my PhD supervisor, he was the one who supervised me for my master's at OWSD. And at that time, he was in Mexico. And then he wanted to take me to Mexico to do PhD with him. But this was not possible without scholarship. And at the same time, he also got another position in South Africa. And then the story started. Then we know that I can apply for a scholarship within Africa and really working with him. And at that time, our academic manager knows about OWSD already. And he proposed me to apply for the scholarship, and I got it. And then I moved to South Africa. And the first week, this was the first time that I went out of my country. And the first week, I was even crying without knowing anybody there in South Africa. And it was quite difficult the first months, the first year. And, but my supervisor was a great man. And believe me, I really missed him now. I graduated on December. I finished my PhD. And thanks to OWSD, I was able to travel, like I said before, and to get visibility about my work, to meet friends like Chantal, because we met during a TWAS and young scientists in South Africa. And it was a great pleasure to see that there were some OWSD fellow in South Africa, and I really loved to be with her. And she even helped me to find accommodation 2 times when I came for my sandwich program. So I think it's a good thing to have OWSD national chapters and to have this kind of network so that whenever you go to another country, you can be in contact with them and you will encourage each other in your work. And one funny story that I want to tell you is that once I went to a conference in the US, and after my presentation, there was a man who came to see me and say, "Are you really doing number theory?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You came from Africa?" And I said, "Yes." And after some minutes, he came again and say, "Are you living in Africa or you're living in another country in Europe?" I say, "No, I'm coming from Senegal." And thanks to OWSD, that guy knows now there are some women in Africa doing number theory. And this is something great. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you to be here again. My name is Hirut Getachew. I'm from Ethiopia. I work for Ambo University in Ethiopia. I did my BSc in one of my university, Hawassa University, in plant production and dryland farming. Then I graduated from Hawassa University. Just I joined the National Meteorological Agency, one of the big governmental organization. Then I worked there as a meteorological observer. At that time, my climate science feeling is started. So then I joined Haramaya University for masters by the help of IDRC. IDRC funded my research project, what you call it, the CCA project. Then I finished my master's in 2011. Then again I joined Ambo University as a lecturer and researcher. So my university announced OWSD to apply. Then I saw the announcement of OWSD. Then when I saw the application of OWSD, It asks or it requires a lot of things: admission letter, supervisor, again publication, and then I tried a lot to find admission because I want to pursue my PhD in the field of agrometeorology. Even I couldn't find this program. I emailed for Malaysian university, but they said we don't have agricultural meteorology program. They say like that. Again, I asked South African University, and I found one supervisor there, University of KwaZulu-Natal, Professor Michael Savage. He wrote a letter for me, and he also helped me to get an admission letter in the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Then I applied for OWSD. Previously, I have 3 publications. I published my whole MSc objectives, so I didn't worry for publication because even if OWSD asked up to 10 publication, so I have my admission and my supervisor letter and my application. Then I applied for OWSD and I joined University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. So OWSD for me, it is an angel and it makes my dream real. So I am so happy to say this thing on this stage. Thank you so much.
Discipline areas. So this past year, oh my goodness, thank you. I'm blanking. This past year, it was the physical sciences, so chemistry, physics, maths, and next year it will be biological sciences, and the year after it will be engineering and computer sciences. So there's something there for everyone. What is it? It's $5,000. It is a week to go to the American Association for the Advancement of Science conference, which is very prestigious, with many, many different stakeholders, senior scientists, research leaders from many countries, journalists, you name it, everybody's there. And it's a great place to be visible because you are visible there, you're celebrated. And we found that these awards really lead to more awards. They lead to more opportunities, and that's why we do them. And every year, Tonya and I and Lucia, we try and shape them and add new things. And when we're in DC, we go and knock on all your embassies, and we introduce you to your ambassador. So we're always trying to innovate and see what's really going to make a difference for you. So anyway, thank you. So the point I want to make is that nominations will open in the summer, June, and then it's open for 3 months. And it's very important that you look into being nominated. You can't nominate yourself, but you need a professor, or in some cases a student even. We've had someone nominated by a student because of all the amazing work she'd done in mentoring. Yeah, so it's look into it. Tonya, you'll hear about it from Tonya and Lucia. But I really, really hope that we get lots of African nominations and some Rwandan nominations. I don't think we've had a Rwandan winner yet, so I hope next year. Thank you.
As a woman lowered, just to allow me into the system. So I'll briefly go through my journey, and I had to jot it down just like Deborah, so that I can utilize my 5 minutes. So I was born I was not born with a silver spoon, but I was born of educated parents. My father is a retired automotive engineer. My mother is a nurse by profession. And given this background, it's not hard to see why I, like my sister and brother, were given good education, which has permitted me to get up to the level I am at right now. And just like any other woman from Africa, I've faced a few challenges here and there, although I was privileged to have parents who supported my studies through the master's level, and they had to raise additional revenue here and there which was required, which required them of self-sacrifice, since all my siblings were institutions that required a lot of financial support. So when I was growing up, I've learned a few things here and there, which the people around you will motivate you to choose a certain career path. So for this instance, being brought up in a family where my mother talked about medicine, my father talked about engineering, my aunt was into research, I was motivated into following the same path as them. So my brother is an engineer, took after my father, and my sister was in the nutrition field. And I remember during my primary school, I was good in maths and science, and I was involved in these science projects. I got into the limelight with the female education for maths and science in Africa, which is FEMSA. And they followed me through to the high school and looked at my progress and mentored me as a student. I would show you a few photos. Sorry. Oh, that's me when I was small. And I was born in a family of one brother and one sister. And then I'll go through my journey from the bachelor's to the master's until where I am. So my love for science went through to high school, whereby I actively participated in science congresses, and I represented my school in up to the provincial level, and that did not stop there. And I always wanted to be a doctor, but I couldn't get the necessary required points, cluster points, to be able to be funded by the government to go to university. So, and the other alternative is you sponsor yourself, and it's like 500,000 Kenya shillings every year, and for 6 years, and that's not pocket change. So. And I'm not the only child, so I had to factor that in. So I opted for a different course, which was medical laboratory sciences. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in 2010 and immediately started my master's degree, which I graduated in 2014. I then started applying for PhDs here and there. I got a few opportunities, but I had to balance in. So the first one was my supervisor, who is currently in South Africa. And she told me she has funds for research, but she doesn't have enough funds to sustain me in South Africa. So I told her, I have this call. If I get the money, then I'm definitely coming to South Africa, which I eventually did. So, okay, I was keen in doing my PhD. So after my master's, I was able to get a job with the US Army, and then they gave me an opportunity to travel the world, meet other people, meet other sponsors, and from that, I'm really thankful. And from my master's work until the PhD, I was able to publish up to 13 publications, and I've been able to travel the world, meet a few people, present in different conferences here and there, and that's all thanks to the current scholarship that I'm on fellowship or with OWSD. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm humbled to appear before you today, even to tell you about my journey with OWSD and as a woman. My names are Judith Akinyi, meaning I was born in the morning. According to our traditions, we name according to the time you are born. So I was born in the morning, so I was given the name Akinyi. My journey with OWSD started in the year 2015, in December, when I received the award letter, and then I took up the fellowship in January 2017. I got a fellowship for a sandwich program between Egerton University and the Northwest University in South Africa. I went specifically to South Africa to do my laboratory work, and I'm humbled also to meet my neighbor in the lab that I was working in. She's right here before you, Professor Babalola. And she was a good neighbor, because I remember the laboratory that I was working in, we would go and borrow a few items from her lab, and she didn't send us away. I received the scholarship after having started my PhD work at Egerton University. And before that, I had several grants, which I was... I did my master's in agricultural education because by profession I am a teacher. So I was required to take, if I was to get any study leave, then it had to be in the education. But I had a passion in doing animal science because my background, my bachelor's was in animal production. So